What's up, everybody? It's Frank here for Yogomi, and in this video I want to talk about the PlayStation Portal. I don't know how many of you all have one of these, but I remember I got mine pretty early, and I've had it for just about a year now. I remember specifically when I pre-ordered this, I was in Seattle at PAX West in 2023, and the email pops up that says, hey, the PlayStation Portal is available for pre-order. So I immediately ordered it while eating dumplings in downtown Seattle. It was released on November 15th of 2023, and it streams games and media from the PlayStation 5 using Remote Play. Well, it used to just do that. Some things have changed and upgraded that kind of make this a little bit more, useful. The device itself feels like the PlayStation 5 controller, only it's a little bit wider and it's got this 8-inch screen built in. The DualSense controller that is built into this has pretty much all the same features as a normal DualSense controller would for the PlayStation 5. It's powered by a Snapdragon 662 chip-on set, and it runs on a very, very heavily modified Android system. Now, unlike the PSP or the PS Vita, the PlayStation Portal streams games directly from the PlayStation 5 library. And I think for me, that's where it lacks the charm of a handheld device. Now, they did add an update in November of 2024 that allows you to stream games through PlayStation's cloud system, but you do have to have a PlayStation Plus premium account. Now, I think that gives this a little bit more of its own handheld feel, but you're still playing games from the PlayStation. You're not playing games made specifically for this device. And I did really think about this before I bought it. This was $199. It's a $200 device. And you got to think that coming from Sony for $200, you're not going to be getting a full playable game system that's going to have its own content, its own games. Because if you know anything about Sony, they're very proud of their products and they price them accordingly. So I knew that for $200, this was going to be a streaming device. But the problem is I'm not really sure it's worth it. When I think about handhelds and I think about systems that really had like a lot of charm, for example, the original Game Boy was a smash hit, the Game Boy Advance SP. I thought this was just the coolest system ever. Nintendo made games specifically for this device. And this is actually a different version. They had a version before this that I traded in so I could get this clamshell build, which I actually prefer, and I think is actually more genius design anyway. But then they came out with something called the Game Boy Micro, which I'm gonna tell you, this is one of my favorite devices. I remember when this came out, I had to hunt this down. I couldn't find many stores that were actually selling this, even GameStop. And the cool thing about it is it plays games from the Game Boy Advance. As a matter of fact, I have Advance Wars in here right now. One of the great things about this is how small it was, which made it extremely portable. It's just to slide this in your pocket or your bag and just have something to play. Now, obviously, this was before games got even more popular on like phones and everything like that. But I still think that there is a lot of love for handhelds. And then came the DS and then like the 3DS. I remember getting this right when it came out. And again, I have a lot of love for this because of the fact that Nintendo made some really great games for this device. And then they ended up making the 3DS XL. I really like this. This is another device that I just really hunted down. I specifically wanted this Galaxy version and I got it. But something I'm kind of leaving out where I feel like Nintendo did this before, and as unpopular as it was, the Wii U had its own little handheld touchscreen that was connected to the device. But the thing about this is that Nintendo did something where they would extend portions of the game and elements of the game onto this. So you could do specific things just on this and it would affect the game, like selecting certain things or certain actions that you would only do this if it was connected. Now, you didn't have to use this, but it did add some extra flair to the game, which I thought was pretty neat. Again, this wasn't a very popular console. I liked it, but you can kind of see that this was a precursor for the Switch. Now, yes, the Nintendo Switch is a handheld, but it's sort of like a console handheld hybrid. And when I first got this, I did see where there were problems. For example, I remember traveling one time and I had the game The Darkest Dungeon on here, and I was trying to play it on a plane, but the problem was that I couldn't see the text. The text was so small on the screen because the game wasn't scaled for a small screen like this. It was made for TVs or monitors. And that's the problem that I have with the PlayStation Portal. There are so many games that look great if you're playing PlayStation 5 on a television or a nice 4K monitor, but they don't always translate well to an 8-inch screen. And you also have to deal with some things like your Wi-Fi. Your Wi-Fi needs to be really good for you to have good gaming performance on this. Now, I haven't run into many issues. I've got a pretty good Wi-Fi system, and I live in an open loft, so there's a lot of line of sight to where the modem is or the routers. So for the most part, I've had pretty good performance when playing games. But the problem is that these games were not made for an 8-inch screen. Those games were made for the PlayStation 5, and I think they're better played on bigger screens. I've played so many games on this, Spider-Man, even Miles Morales, Uncharted, Returnal. Those games look and play so well on a PlayStation 5. And when they're sent to this device, they still look great and they play great, but then there's some things that you're missing, like, you know, what if an enemy is really far away, or sometimes a text pops up on the screen and it's actually kind of tiny. I think I'm having a tough time understanding what the purpose of this is. Is it so if somebody in the house wants to watch TV on the TV that the PlayStation 5 is hooked up and you're in the middle of a game and you're not ready to stop playing, you could transfer it to this and then just go somewhere else and play it? Or is it, hey, you know what, I just want to play my PlayStation 5 game and not sit at a big desk or sit on the couch. Maybe I just want to go to bed and just play a few games before I doze off. Is that what it is for? I don't know. I can tell you that I haven't really used it for either one of those. I haven't used it very much, and there's not much that's drawing me to play this or use it, because I think that if I want to play my PlayStation 5 games, I'm gonna play them on my PlayStation on a screen where you're really gonna see the details and the graphics and even the audio. That's also a really big thing, the audio. Sometimes I play with headsets and sometimes I have them going through my studio monitors. You don't really get the same thing with this. I do think it's a very cool device. I don't think it's a must-have. I think it's a nice to have. And now, if you subscribe to PlayStation Plus Premium, you can stream games. The problem is you can't stream every game. It's only a select group of games. It's only like maybe 100 and something games, half of the games, I believe, that are available in the cloud. Now, at the time of making this video, that could have changed, but that's the last thing I saw. You can't play all of the games that are in the cloud. So you can only play some of them. It just so happens that some of the games that I want to play, they are available, like Spider-Man and Returnal. But there's still some limitations. Now, I did hear from a pretty reputable source. Now, again, this is just a rumor, but Sony could be working on making games and designing games specifically to stream to a handheld device. Now, I hope they're not thinking of making a whole new device to do that to. I mean, this is perfect for it. And I think that's what would make this much more useful to me. If Sony decided to design and develop games specifically for the PlayStation Portal, and what I mean by that is that they would be scaled for the screen, I think that would change everything. Especially if you have a subscription, you could go anywhere as long as you have Wi-Fi and play those games. I think that would make this much more valuable and maybe still not a must-have, but a very, very nice to have. Another really cool feature is that I was actually able to connect to my iPhone as a hotspot and play games. So it still has a lot of potential, I think, to be a very, very cool gaming system. I just don't think it's there yet for people to add it to their console collection or even their handheld collection, because again, it's not the PS Vita and it's definitely not a Nintendo 3DS, and it is definitely not a Switch. Now, there are some alternatives. I did a video about a year or so ago about the Backbone. You could connect your iPhone, download PS Play, and using the Backbone as a controller, you can play games directly from your PlayStation 5. You do have to stream it because Sony doesn't yet offer that streaming component that they brought in November of 2024 for the PlayStation Portal, and I'm not sure they ever will. However, if you do have a tablet, like I have an iPad Pro, I just grabbed the DualShock controller, paired it using Bluetooth, and connected the iPad to my PlayStation 5, and voila, I'm playing PlayStation games on my iPad Pro. So that's also an alternative, and I'm not sure the statistics on this, but I would imagine more people would probably have tablets in their house than they would the PlayStation Portal. So that's my take on having the PlayStation Portal for a year. I wonder if anybody else has this device. Do you use it a lot? Do you play it a lot? Do you play it more than your PlayStation 5 or less? Or do you play it at all? Which I don't really play mine that much. Every once in a while, I'll fire it up, but then I kind of want to see Spider-Man swinging through New York City on a 32-inch 4K monitor. It just plays better that way for me. So let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on the PlayStation Portal? I will stick with it's not a must-have, it's a nice to have.